Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Welcome to the Art of Badassery podcast. I'm Mahara Wayman, your host. And my guest today is Andrea Fung, a transformational coach and energy healer with a powerful story of self-discovery. Growing up in Malaysia, Andrea never felt aligned with the cultural values around her. At 19, she moved to Australia for university and didn't look back. But after years of inner healing, a recent return to Malaysia transformed her perspective. Now, Andrea is building her business while balancing life between Australia and Malaysia, with passions for travel, hiking, meditation, and exploring the unknown. She's here today to share her journey of embracing her badassery and creating life on her terms. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mahara. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
I love it when my guests are that excited to be here. So often I end the show with a very, very forward question, which is, hey, girlfriend, why are you badass?
Well, I'm badass because I've gone from clueless lawyer knowing nothing about personal development to working in energy healing and spirituality in 2.5 years. I think that's a pretty badass journey to take on.
That is definitely badass. Let's go back though. In the intro, I mentioned that you left Malaysia at 19 to go to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yes.
was it about Australia that kept you there?
Well, it was the fact that, the food was better. I had acquired a beautiful, lovely partner at the time. And there was also the fact that there was nothing in Malaysia that I wanted to embrace back in my life. Growing up in Malaysia, I always felt really quite different. I don't know why I always had this feeling of, I don't know why I was born in this country. In all honesty, for as long as I could remember, it's like, why am I born in this country? Why am I born with this family? I don't subscribe to the culture. I don't subscribe to the values of the people here. It's so restrictive. It feels very small. And growing up, I grew up in a very strict Asian and religious Christian family. So there was a lot of stifling of expression, stifling of authenticity that I don't think was ever allowed to blossom, to become authenticity to begin with, because I had to be obedient and you had to be a particular way. I just didn't feel like I belonged there at all. I felt isolated. I felt rejected. I felt like I didn't fit there. And so when I had the opportunity to fly to Australia for uni, I was like, I am never coming back. Never. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care if I have to sell my body to stay there. I am never coming back. And that's why I decided to stay.
You think, and thank you for sharing that. Were there any traits that you consciously developed while you were in Malaysia to navigate this feeling of I don't belong?
I think the main traits that I developed was, I wouldn't even call it a trait. It was this solid self-belief that I will figure everything out. Because, there was so many instances actually from a young age where it just reinforced to me that, wow, I need to do this alone. Whether it's in the form of not having my brother support me or not having my family back me in anything or shoot down all my ideas or having friends that are just absolutely lovely but just don't get me at all. It was just that I am really alone in this world. And if I'm going to make it, I'm gonna figure it out. I just have to, because there's just no other choice. And so the main trait I would say is this unwavering belief that I will figure things out, and that like I can make things work, regardless of what the circumstance. I can make whatever work in my favor, and those would be the main traits.
Okay, so Very, very powerful and kind of juicy. It's a running theme that I'm seeing or hearing with my guests. In fact, just yesterday I recorded a podcast and the guest said something very similar, which was when I realized that I alone had to change my life. If I wanted it to change, I alone had to take that on. And very similar to what you've said is recognizing that it's up to you. Total badass. However, what I also want to share or call out is, do you think that there was any component of not only do I have to do it, but I'm worth the effort? Because I'm curious about the level of worth that badasses feel as they go through.
For me at that time, I think I was just struggling to survive so much that I don't, and also because I was quite young, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it ever crossed my mind whether I was worthy of it or not. I just knew in my mind that if I do not do something about this, I will go crazy. I will go crazy. And there was something in my mind, something in my psyche that kind of felt like, Andy, like if you don't pull yourself, if you don't pull yourself up or maintain yourself up to a certain level, you're going to go down the rails, and there might be no turning back at that point. And I know, looking back now, I had that very kind of pleasure driven kind of personality where it's like when I dive into something, and if I find certain pleasure and if I find some sort of satisfaction, and at that time, any pleasure would be a form of escape. Okay, let's be honest. It's not about fulfillment or satisfaction. It's about escape. I would dive so deep into it, it would have been hard to grab me out of it. It would have been hard to turn back. And there were a few moments where I kind of thought I could have just not, I could have been in a situation where I could not turn back. And so call it soul intervention or high intuition or so, like, my spirit guys just screaming, no, Andy, no, just in the nick of time. I think that kept me from going too far in certain moments. Yeah.
So, well, I'm glad that you listened. I'm glad that you
Yes.
listened.
Oh, absolutely.
Trusting our intuition, our soul, our higher self, our spirit guides, whatever you want to call it. I definitely think is part of being badass because it's a recognition that we are not here, we're not alone. We maybe up to us to take action, but in the scheme of things, I believe that we are part of a team. Life is a team sport. I want to go back to something that you said, which was that there were so many things that you wanted to escape from. And I'm hearing this a lot as well. And I speak from experience that, in order to us to when we take action, it's either we want less of something and we're trying to escape what's behind us or what's around us, or it's not that there's anything wrong with what's behind us or around us, but we have a very clear vision for our future. So we're either running away from something, we want less of that, or we definitely want more of that. So I just wanted to highlight that whether you realized it or not at a young age, there's this need to take action. At the time, it was just, I didn't want any more of that. I was escaping. But would you say now, all these years later, that your actions are more forward driven for a life that you were looking for?
Oh, absolutely. I think, all of that started from, like I could say end of 2020, early 2021 was when, I decided to quit law again for the second and final time this time, and made that decision. You know what? All these things that I have worked hard the things that I have acquired, or whether, it's in the form of having this glamorous career, or whether it's this white picket fence life, all the things that I was fed or taught to say, like, this is going to bring you happiness. When I worked my ass off and got all of that and realized, this doesn't feel that good at all. It feels terrible, in fact. It's just not, it was just, this is not what alignment is. This is not what fulfillment is. I decided, like, okay, you know what? Clearly, I do not know what I want. And when I embraced the fact that I have absolutely no idea what is good for me, and I have absolutely no idea what it is that I wanted, and decided to follow my highest joy at any given moment, trusting that, you know what, if I follow what makes me happy, surely it's going to lead me somewhere. It's going to lead me to the higher purpose. It's going to lead me to the sacred calling. It's going to lead me to true happiness and abundance. And it did. It absolutely did. And I started moving forward. Yes.
I love the energy. And if you're not watching the video, folks, her energy is through the roof, or you may hear it. I'm sure you heard it in the voice. But, for those of us, well, I don't count myself there anymore because I'm kind of with you on this one. But for listeners that are like, oh my God, you guys make it sound so easy. Trust, just do what you want, do what makes you happy. What a load of shit. I got to pay the bills, right? My parents paid 50 grand for me to have an education. And what? I'm just not going to do what I have a degree in. I mean, I'm putting words in people's mouths, but what do you say to the listeners that are there? Do you have any advice or tips on how you navigated that very brave decision to turn your back on your career, for example?
Well, I would say that even though I understand that, that weight of, oh my gosh, my parents dropped 50 grand per year, let's say, to take me through uni. But ultimately, let's say you go through uni for a period of 3 years. Is that 150 grand worth throwing an entire life of potential happiness away? And with that education, have you not acquired a fair number of skills that you could use to build something on the side? Everything that's in your life, everything that you have experienced, all of that has given you skills and qualities that are transferable to something that is potentially going to actually make you happy. And when I say following your joy, it doesn't mean that you don't go to work and pay the bills. It just means that you're allowing yourself the experience of being happy for a little while, even if it's just to go bouldering for an hour, or to go and experience some travel for 2-3 days a weekend in the next city or something. But when you are able to give yourself some form of happiness, you are giving yourself some space to actually find what actually makes you happy. If anything, it makes you realize what really makes you unhappy. And a lot of the time, even if you don't know what makes you happy, it's the fact that you know what makes you unhappy. That is the thing that is going to give you that clarity. It's the thing that's going to give you that drive to want more, to make you realize that there is so much more to life than this, whatever that might be for you. It could be a 9-to-5 corporate job, or it could be being an entrepreneur. It could be just being a stay-at-home parent. It could be anything, whatever it is that isn't fueling or feeding your cells with like this vibration of love and happiness and excitement. That's what you want. Truly.
You're speaking my language. When you made the second and final decision, your words, not mine, to leave your law practice, what was the first thing you did?
The first thing I did was I decided to set up an Instagram account, because I made a list of 100 things that I would do for free forever, right? Just writing down full, honesty, unapologetic list. And the top 3 involved taking photos in exotic beaches, being in beautiful bikinis, and writing positive messages. It was just the honest fact. And so I decided I'm just going to become a social media influencer. So I set up an Instagram account, and a series of synchronistic events just started from there. And it's been pivot until here I am right now.
Well, okay. First off, I just want to share a little humor story. When I got into entrepreneurship, I too decided to set up an Instagram account because I was told to. I didn't know what Instagram was. And I reached out to my youngest daughter and I said, sweetheart, yeah, what's Instagram? Can you help? I mean, apparently I should do that. And she's like, you are such an embarrassment. It's 2020. What Instagram is? I'm like, well, I've heard of it, but I'm a Facebook woman. Anyway, I laugh now at my naivete back then, but loved what you said in this idea of you just downloaded things that you wanted to do and you did it. What I loved about what you said was recognizing that your first step forward, I call them aligned action, prompted synchronicities that have led you to where you are today. So take us through what some of that synchronicity looked like.
Okay. So we all know that if everything is energy, then everything, we are going to magnetize everything that is a vibration, vibration match to us, right? And so when I decided to take that action, I was signaling to the universe, you know what, I'm going to choose me. I'm happy, I'm going to choose me. And so what happened from that point onwards would be the universe, the world, your spirit guides, your soul, however you want to call it, they will send to you all the people and the events that are going to help you on your path. So when I became a social media influencer, what did I know about being a social media influencer? Absolutely nothing. It was just pure curiosity and passion. But what was interesting was that I built my social media following to 1,000 followers within 3 months. And within those 3 months, 2 people came to me and said, hey, Andy, I love what you're doing. Can you please help me build my social media account? And so from that point onwards, I became a social media manager for 3 months. And what did I know about being a social media manager? Absolutely nothing. So I just did some Googling, read a bit of stuff about how to, create like a color palette, a cohesive color palette theme on their accounts, what messages they wanted to share, where was the best time to post it, frequency of the posting, all of those things. And then within those 3 months, I came across someone who was a digital nomad coach. And I love what she was doing. She was basically helping people build businesses so that they can be a digital nomad. And I didn't even know what a digital nomad was. I didn't know this term until that point. And so I thought, I want to help people do that because I am a traveler and I love experiencing and having transformative travel. Now, I feel like traveling is one of the ultimate tools of personal development, especially if you're doing solo travel and you're open to adventure and you're having to be hyper aware. You're in a situation where you have to be resourceful and be on high alert, and every part of about you comes alive. I want more and more women to experience that, actually. But then, so I did her course, and my digital nomad coaching business totally tanked, because how can I teach someone how to set up their own business and travel the world during a pandemic when I was still in the process of setting up my first business? So I decided then, you know what, this is not bringing me joy anymore. It really isn't. I was burnt out. I was stressed. I was lacking sleep because I was working from home, and therefore the lines of separation between work and home blurred to nothingness. And I thought to myself, if this isn't bringing me joy anymore, why am I doing this? Right? And so I decided to take a break. I went interstate on an interstate holiday to visit my brother. And I decided, you know what? I wonder what's on LinkedIn. What's been happening in that sphere? I haven't opened it in a while. And I opened it up. And right in my inbox was an opportunity to work in a coaching institute here in Brisbane. And I had exchanged literally 2 comments on a post with the director of this coaching institute. And just like that, I suddenly went from 0 clients to 10. And it's just been another series of event after event after event, all small and big, that has led me to going from mindset coaching to energy healing and to where I am now.
So what I'm hearing, Andrea, which I think is really a powerful component of being badass, is this idea of trusting. And you said it earlier, actually, that you really began to trust yourself and trust the universe and trust that you were here for more than being a lawyer, for example, and just doing what you were told. Have you done anything to consciously develop your level of trust with the universe?
Well, I think the more I trusted in what brings me joy, that's my whole message, honestly, is I believe that we are here as humans to experience joy. We all have those questions of surely there's more to life than this, right? All of us have those questions, at whatever stage of our life. Surely there's got to be more to life than this. And because I've asked that question to myself so many times, I think it really instilled in me that I don't think we're here to be miserable. I don't think we were placed on this earth to be miserable. Of course, the real reason that we're placed on this earth is a lot more complex and nuanced than that. But like, I kind of thought, I'm sure we are here to be happy. And so I feel like if I just follow what brings me joy, that should lead me to the answers that I want, because it will be just the most natural thing to feel happy. It is the most natural thing. When we feel so happy, it's as if time just flies, right? And you don't care about anything else. You don't care about anyone else or what's happening. You're just being in your true, natural, abundant state. And so every single time I decided to take the next step, and, you know, previously, as I was talking about the synchronistic events, every time an opportunity dropped in my lap, and I felt like, oh, you know, this could be really fun. Every time I took that opportunity, even though it's something that I know nothing about, whether it's to become a social media influencer, to become a digital nomad coach, to become a social media manager, to become a mindset coach, to become a theta healer, to become a transformational coach, to go home to Malaysia for 10 months, you know, every single time I decided to take that step, no matter how scary it was at the time, when I took it, I always landed in paradise. Always landed in paradise.
So much juice there. What I think is really powerful is your recognition that it's scary, right? Because you said, you know, even if it was scary, just taking that action, it's almost as if it puts us on a different plane. And like,
Yes.
I picture it that my spirit guides are like, did she get the message? Did she get the message? Oh, for God's sake. Hey, she got the message. Okay, guys, Mahara got the message. And I like to visualize it like that. But can you share with us I mean, it sounds great, and I love your energy, your laughter, and the underlying message is to take action on your joy. But let's look at the flip side of that. Were there when you're like, this ain't fun, I'm not happy, this is was there ever a struggle where you question? And if so, how did you navigate that?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me this question, Mahara, because the biggest thing that I struggled with was actually my business. So this business had transformed so many times from being from the social media influencer days to the coaching days to the energy healing days to where I am now. And what I didn't realize was at one point because from the time I started my business, it was always filled with hustle. It was always filled with stress. It was always filled with burnout and exhaustion. Because number one, it was my first business. I've never started a business before. I was not the kind of person that had an entrepreneurial mind, by the way. I never had a dream. It was just, okay, I like doing this activity. This activity requires a business, so let's go do it, right? But during that time, as I was going through every single pivot, I realized one day I came to the realization that, like, you know, I source a lot of my validation from within. I have a relatively strong sense of self. So I don't really ask other people about my decisions or myself. But when it came to my business, I always asked other people for their opinion. So much so, it's to the point where it's like it's like through their answers, I'm trying to convince myself that I can do this business or that I want to do this business. Right? And then it got to a point where it was early 2022. I was sick with laryngitis. I was taking in 3 or 4 clients at the time. And there was no more joy in those coaching calls. And previously, the main incentive for me to keep my business going was the fact that I love the coaching calls. I love going on coaching calls. And it was the thing that made me feel like, okay, because the coaching calls are so much fun and I feel like I'm so in my zone that it is worth going through the hardship, the hardship of entrepreneurship. But then in this particular moment when I was sick, I was like, the calls aren't even joyful anymore. Like, why am I even still doing that? And I came to realize that my relationship with my business was so parasitic that it was toxic, Because at the time that I started my business, I started it as a vehicle to get out of law. I started it as a vehicle to prove to my parents or to society that I can find work and make money doing what it is that I love. That was the energy, and that was the energetic foundation of that business. And so I realized that if I'm not even enjoying the calls anymore, I need to let it go, because I'm not doing myself any favors. It's not fair to my clients that I'm taking them through. I will give them the experience that they want, obviously. But if my heart's not in it, that's not right. They deserve someone who genuinely cares to take them through the process and be there for them the entire time. So I decided, you know what? If this is not it, I need to come back into the business one day again, whenever that might be, with the right energy. It has to be from the energy of love. It must be from the energy, with the energy of service. It must be with the energy of wanting to do more for the betterment of humanity. And so I let the business go. And it was incredibly difficult. It was very, very hard. I cried for an entire week because so much of my ego was attached to that business. Because now it's like, oh my gosh, what can I say? What will I say to other people that I've let it go? What am I going to do for income? But at the time, after that first week or two, I had decided that I was going to go back to Malaysia and had the most amazing, magical time. My parents stepped in and they were like, look, if you want support, even though they don't even fully know what it is that I was doing, they just said like, look, if you just need support, if it wasn't bringing you joy anymore, we'll support you. Don't worry about it. Take all the time you need. And it was like, what? It was amazing, Mahara. It was epic.
Oh, and you know what? So much I can relate to so much of what you've said. But I think two things really stood out for me. Number one, I do want to do a deeper dive on this idea of an energetic platform, or just energy in general. You mentioned theta healing. I know what you're talking about. Listeners may not, so I do want to go there. So don't let me forget.
Okay.
But that I heard and I can really relate to is this: despite our best intentions, it is so ingrained, and I'm speaking for myself, it's so ingrained in me to look for outside validation that even when I chose to run my own business and start my own business, because like you, I'm an entrepreneur, and like you, I'm a coach, I still got sucked into the narrative that I needed to prove myself. And what if I don't? And quite frankly, I'm in a place right now where I'm asking myself the same questions. I love what I do. I do. But I don't love the fretting if I'm going to make ends meet. I don't love the feeling that I need to be on social media 3 times a day or even daily. There's so much that I don't love that I too am beginning to question what's going to make me happy. I love coaching. And I'm blessed to coach for a company as a side hustle to my main hustle, which is coaching for myself. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of relief that I don't have to pound the pavement to get a client on the one. Because what I really love is the coaching. What I really love is making a difference in the world. What I really love is being a podcaster. So I just want to say that even those of us that are on this amazing personal journey of self-discovery and badassery, we can still succumb to the pressures of needing outside validation. So I just think that's a really honest call out that it's there. It's part of our culture. And even when we do the inner work, we can still fall victim to that need. So thank you for highlighting that. Okay. Theta healing, WTF. Can you talk about that?
So theta healing is it's a very interesting modality where we basically go up to source, and within that source energy, utilizing that source energy whilst being in a theta state, we request for a change of your beliefs. So if you have this belief where you think that you are not good enough, we just go into a theta state, and then I request for that belief to be removed on several levels, and to install a new belief that says that I am enough. And then what I do is I basically witness that belief being installed. And then we do a muscle test on you to see if that belief has actually taken on, because our body knows best. Our mind might say, oh yeah, you're not enough. But then when we do the muscle testing, it means that all the cells down to a cellular level in your body, it's a yes or a no. That's theta healing.
All right. So I've actually experienced theta healing.
Yes.
But the first question that comes to mind is, how is that different? Am I being hypnotized? Is this a mind thing? When you say we go up and ask for it to be switched out, I mean, I'm having a hard time just picturing it. So is this an example of, and stay with me here, folks that are listening, is this an example of, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't work? Just take a deep breath and go with us.
Yes, so much of energy healing work is that. But ultimately, like, you're not even the one that, so if I was working on a client, or so let's say if we are working together on this, and you know this, you've experienced it, you don't even have to be in the theta state. You just have to tell me what is the belief. We have a bit of a conversation to get to the root, the bottommost underlying belief. And then after that, I will be the one that will go into the theta state and request for the changes of the belief systems and take it from there. And then we do the muscle test on you. So you don't even have to do anything. You just have to sit there and relax and breathe.
Gosh, folks, you know what I'm doing after this? I'm booking a theta session with her because I'm hooked.
Yeah.
But really, bringing this back to this idea that we are badass, I just want to call out that even being on my show right now, talking about theta healing, which is not brand new to me, but pretty new, I guarantee it's brand new to many of our listeners. That takes courage, right? That is totally badass. And I want to say thank you for that, because true conversation, I think, is about exploring the unknown and being open to hearing about the unknown, right? It's not just about, hey, go to school and you do this and you do what's normal and what you can see in front of you. I think part of the human condition is this willingness to step outside of what our comfort zone, because that's going to take us up another level in our development or in our growth, spiritual or physical, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, so good. What happened in Malaysia? You said it was an amazing trip. The introduction I gave you shared that it was life-changing. So what was it about your time in Malaysia that really facilitated that for you?
Do you remember earlier on in the conversation, I had said that I just didn't feel like I belonged, and I felt I just didn't fit in that country. Why was I born in this country? I don't subscribe to the values, the culture, the traditions, everything. Well, this time going back to Malaysia, it was like an epic homecoming. It's like the moment my feet touched the land, I received, and I felt this message of like, welcome home, Andy. Like, let us show you how good it can be. And I'm tearing up even just like expressing this, because it was such an emotional moment. And I feel like I had come home to my family. I never ever knew what it felt like to be supported by family, or to have them back me, to have communication with family where it didn't erupt into World War III every other day, if not every day. So this time I stayed with my parents for 10 whole months, in one of their rooms. And it was the most peaceful 10 months ever. Like, when I mean ever, I mean, this is the first time, Mahara. Like, I'm not even joking. This is the first time. That's number one. And number two, I felt like not only did I come home to my family, I came home to my culture. I came home to my Chinese culture, to my race, or to my ethnicity, you could say. And I could look at all the things that have shaped that, all the values and the traditions that were imposed on me, that have, as I was growing up, they have shaped me to become who I am. And I realized I could see finally the value in that. Obviously now as an adult, and after I've cleared, well, not to say fully cleared, but like released so much of the trauma and done so much healing, I could see the value in that. I could see which ones I would pick, which ones I can discard. but I could see the value in all of it. I can appreciate all of it. I came back to, I came back to my country. I could see how beautiful my country is. The islands is just a 20-minute boat ride away from the ferry point that is a 30-minute walk away. And the people, when I was walking around the place, they're so lovely. I forgot how hospitable and how kind people are in my state. The food was amazing. Well, food has always been pretty amazing there. So there's no questions there. But it was just a beautiful homecoming in so many ways. But the one thing, the last icing on the cake was I went on a hike and I had hurt myself. And because I was rushing so much, this voice came to me and it was just, why are you rushing, Andy? Why do you feel the need to rush? Can't you just go at your own pace and let that be enough? And this was so profound, this message of, can you let it be enough? Can you let yourself be enough in whatever condition you might be, whether you're going a bit slow, whether you're going a bit fast, whether you're creative at the moment or not creative that day? Can you let that be enough? And when I came back, have you heard of the song Oceans by Hillsong? Okay, so that song had been playing, and when I came back, I listened to the whole song, and I had this massive cathartic cry. And it was at that time that I came back to Christ consciousness, not to the religion of Christianity, but to Christ consciousness itself, and connecting, going into meditation, connecting with Jesus Christ, and having this beautiful homecoming right after that hike, after that profound message, was just everything. It was everything. And it was in that moment that I knew that, all right, I had done what I came here to do. Even though at the time that I came back, I didn't know what it was that I came here for exactly. I was just following a hint, following a nudge. And at that moment, it was like, okay, I now know exactly what I came here for.
Wow, what a beautiful, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And when I'm in my late 50s, when I was in my early 20s, I went home, my home, which is Jamaica. And I had a similar experience. Well, similar in the sense that I was overwhelmed by emotion. The first time I flew back, I left when I was 10 and I went back, I was about 22 maybe. And I got choked up seeing, as we were, flying, like landing, I could see the island and the outline. And then when I was through in the airport and, handing in my passport to go through security, the security guard read in my passport, it was a Canadian passport, but read that I was in Jamaica. I'm going to get emotional. And he looked up and he smiled and he said, "Welcome home, darling." And I was like, oh my God. And
oh my gosh,
it was very emotional. And I had an amazing trip. I stayed with my aunt and I went back I went back a handful of times. And then I've taken my family there a few times. But I will confess, well, it's in my book, that my dream is to go home. I want to live there. I want to split my time between Jamaica and Canada. Love Canada, feel blessed.
That's beautiful.
I cannot stop thinking about the pull. So I can relate to your experience. Okay, deep breath, no more tears. I teared up. No, it was crazy. I teared up on another podcast talking about my dream to go home.
It's a sign.
It's a total sign. It's a total sign. But let's bring it back to today. Can you share with us exactly what you are doing today?
Today, I'm in the process of building a dream leading up to a higher vision. So what I want to do at the moment is I want to work with corporate professionals and also soulful entrepreneurs, and help more and more people in the corporate world awaken to a life of joy and find their divine purpose. If I look back to my life back then, it was a lot of partying. It was a lot of drinking. It was a lot of escaping to escape a life that just did not bring me fulfillment and satisfaction, but also it was purposeless. it was like I was just going through the motions, and I want to help more and more people get out of that, to help them awaken to presence, awaken to joys of daily life. You know what I mean? That to find abundance in the everyday life, because there's so much of it, literally everywhere, all around us, all day, every day. So that's what I want to do. And as I'm doing that, I'm hoping to work more and more with, bring more and more people into spirituality, activate them into learning how to feel into the frequency of the land and stuff like that. Because one day in the future, I would love to run like planetary mission retreats, where I take people to sacred sites and we just work with the earth energy and experience the earth energy in that particular sacred site. See what kind of guides that we can connect with there, and just work the earth grids, connect to Gaia and experience that connection and expand that mutual love that we have, that Gaia has for us and that we have for Gaia, to the rest of the site and to the rest of the world. That's what I would love to do one day in the future.
Oh, thank you. Sounds absolutely amazing. But really, underneath everything, there's such a joy in your spirit and in your energy. And I know that our listeners can hear it. And for those of us that are still sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and when I say in, 1 foot into our next stage of growth, we sort of tap it in, bring it back, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to encourage us, myself included, to put your whole foot in. Remember that game? You put your right foot in, you put your right foot out.
Yes.
For it, because being badass is more than sticking up for yourself. It's also moving yourself forward to where you know you need to be. Even if you don't understand the journey, it's not about knowing how it's going to work out. It's just having trust that it is, and believing in yourself that you deserve all of the happiness and joy in the world. Andrea, how can people reach out? How can they reach you? I will put things in show notes, but can you share with us on how best to connect with you?
Well, if you want to connect with me, but at the moment maybe still particularly unsure, you can check out my website first at www.andreafung.com, and you can send me a message from that particular site, or you can check me out on Instagram. So, I'll give you the full details, Mahara. But basically, my Instagram handle is the Andy Ventures. Another way you could reach out would be via LinkedIn or even via Facebook. And yeah, I'll send through all of the details for you to list out, Mahara.
Sounds great. So what would be some tips that you would leave with our audience today on how, especially if we're struggling to find joy in our, some tips that you have on doing just that?
Well, the first step towards finding joy is to find gratitude, is to live with the spirit of gratitude. When I first started this journey, this lady that I haven't spoken to in literally years suddenly messaged me on Facebook, and she's like, "Hey, I'm doing this 21-day Deepak Chopra gratitude meditation. Would you like to join?" Just start with that. And from there onwards, when you're able to find things to be grateful for, you will train yourself to see, oh my God, there's so many things here that are amazing. And that brings you that joy, and it opens up your channels and opens up your cells to joy. And from that point onwards, the more you feel it, the more you want it, the more you're going to find all the little things that feel joy, the more you're going to allow yourself to take action, to do the activities, to go to the places, to speak to the people that bring you joy. And it just starts from there. It doesn't have to be one big jump right away. It just starts from one or two things, and it snowballs until it becomes an avalanche.
So good. Andy, I can't thank you enough. I have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I know that our audience has as well. Folks, this has been the Art of Badassery, where I chat with badass women and men every week. So tune in next week for another episode, and check out the show notes for all the ways that you can connect with Andy. She is, as you can have heard, quite joyful. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another badass episode. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, don't forget to like, share, and rate the episode on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback keeps the badassery flowing. And hey, if you're ready to unleash your inner badass and conquer whatever life throws your way, why not book a complimentary badass breakthrough session? Just click the link in the show notes to schedule your session, and let's kick some serious butt together. Until next time, stay fearless, stay fabulous, and of course, stay badass. This is Mahara signing off.